In this video, we'll look at a left-hand warm routine on the classical guitar. So we'll look at left-hand walking, we'll look at ascending and descending slurs or hammer-ons and pull-offs, and then we'll take a look at left-hand finger dependence. At the end, we'll have a bonus exercise to help you with your left-hand stretches. So let's start by taking a look at left-hand walking. We'll start by doing one finger left-hand walking. So the index finger will start on the low E string on the first fret. And we're going to keep each finger so it's assigned its fret. So the index finger or the first finger will be on the first fret, the second finger or the middle finger will be on the second fret, etc. So we're going to start with the index on the low E string, and then we're going to move down toward the ground, toward the A string, and keep going to D, G, B, E, and then return back to B, G, D, A, and then low E. And then we'll repeat the same process with all four fingers. So then we go to the second finger, the same thing, the second fret of the low E string, second fret of the A, second fret of D, G, B, and back. And we're not really thinking about speed right now, we're thinking about being as legato as possible. So repeat that with the third finger on the third fret. And last but not least, everyone's favorite, the pinky. For most people, that's going to be the weakest finger. That's totally normal. So it's really good to practice that one to develop the strength in your fourth finger or your pinky. We want to be as legato as possible when we're doing this. It's not completely possible to be legato, to be completely connected, because you are going to have to lift up your finger and go to the next string. And in that time, there's going to be a disconnection. That's hard to avoid. But as much as possible, that'll really help you develop that strength in your fingers. When you're playing a piece, then we wouldn't probably play that, using the same finger over and over again, but this is a great exercise. Let's go on to the two-finger left-hand walking. Then we're going to go to index on the low E string, first fret once again, but now we're going to go to the middle finger on the second fret of the A string, and then index on the first fret of the D, middle on second fret of G, index on first fret of B, and then back to the second fret of the high E string, and come back the opposite direction. So you can probably see the pattern here if I go into the middle finger on the second fret of the low E string, third fret on the A string, back to middle on the D string, ring finger or third finger on the G, middle on the B, and then ring back on the high E string, coming back the same way. And last but not least, everyone's favorite combination once again, the third finger on the third fret to the pinky on the fourth fret of the A string, third finger on the D string, fourth on G, third on B, and pinky on the high E string, back, same way. So you can go one time per finger or two times per finger. You don't need to spend a lot of time on this, but I think this is a great way to start your practicing with your left hand. That way you're kind of easing into all the different moves that you have to do, so you're nice and warmed up and ready to go. Next, we'll look at ascending and descending slurs or hammer-ons and pull-offs. It's more of a classical thing to call doing this an ascending slur. Rock and blues players would call it a hammer-on. Either one is totally fine. I call them either one. I go back and forth between saying ascending slur because the note is going up, and a slur just means that we go from one note to the next note smoothly. So you can call it a hammer-on or an ascending slur. So we're going to start with the index finger on the low E string. We're going to play the low E string first fret and then hammer to the second fret on the same string. And then what we're going to do is we're going to keep going, moving down towards the floor in a similar way that we did in the left-hand walking. So we're going to index to middle on the A string, index to middle on the D, to G, to B, to high E, and then we're going to come back to the B. And we're going to continue going up that way. We're going to go from middle finger to third finger on the third fret. So it's keeping the same pattern, just using a different finger combination. Now we're going to go to the next one. This is the most difficult one once again, because we're going to hammer to the pinky. We want to keep the third finger very steady. It's like a rock keeping the string down. We go to the A string to the D to G, B, high E, back to You don't have to go fast by any means. See if you can go evenly, even between the two notes, but then also even between the string changes. It's very tempting, especially with a weaker finger like the pinky, to go fast and have a pause, fast and a pause. See if you can have it be even, so that if someone was listening, wasn't a guitar player, they wouldn't know that you change strings. Now let's keep going with that idea. We'll develop our pinky a little bit more. Let's go from middle on the 2nd fret to pinky on the 4th fret. This is a really good one to do. Come back. You don't have to go fast at all. If you want to go slower, totally fine. Just make sure the notes are nice and even. I won't come back just to save time. Let's keep going. We're going to keep the pinky, but now we're going to move to the index on the 1st fret. So we're going from the 1st fret to the 4th fret. And last but not least, this one's a little bit easier because you have a nice strong finger combination. We'll go from index to ring, index to ring. So see if you can practice those. But I actually find it's helpful to focus on the finger combination that's the most difficult. I know that's not always the most fun. For myself, it's definitely the ring finger to the pinky. But that really helps to balance out your left hand. Because for most people, the index and middle are the strongest fingers, and the ring and the pinky are a little less strong. So it's kind of nice that you can develop these fingers. You have more balance in your left hand. Now, if we look at pull-offs, we're going to start with the same finger combination of index and middle, but this time we will start with the middle finger on the 2nd fret of the low E string, and we're going to pull off to the index finger, and we'll move down toward the ground. I'll come back. You don't have to go this fast by any means. Make sure that when you do the pull off, your lower note doesn't move down. That's a common problem where people pull the string down towards the ground as they're pulling. So it's a little bit of a thing that you have to get used to. And what I find helps a little bit is to think of your index finger. It's not really doing this, but you kind of think of it almost as like the index finger like pushing up towards the ceiling. So it's an opposing motion to the middle finger pulling off. If we go on to the next finger combination of middle, then ring finger, we'll start with the ring finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string and pull off to the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the low E string and keep going. Remember that we want to be even. That's so much more important than pure speed. And last but not least, once again, we'll pull off the pinky to the ring finger. And make sure that to get that going, kind of the same finger combinations that we can do when we were doing the hammer-ons a second ago. You can go from pinky to the middle finger, making sure that middle finger stays right, nice and steady. Then we can go from pinky to the index finger on the 1st fret. So as I said before, we're just always keeping the fingers matched up with the frets for now, just to keep life nice and simple. And last but not least, it's actually a pretty strong finger combination. We go from ring finger to the index finger. Once again, make sure that you're going nice and even. And also with the right hand, as you're doing these, like whatever finger you use with the right hand is fine. Keep it super simple. Even if you want to keep using your thumb over and over, that's totally fine, because we want to focus on the left hand. Let's look at one more thing having to do with hammer-ons and pull-offs. Now we're going to combine them. So we're actually going to do a set of 3 notes. We're going to start with the index finger one more time on the low E string 1st fret. And we're going to play a hammer-on and pull off with the middle finger. So we're only going to pluck the string one time and hammer and pull off in one motion. So the left hand finger is kind of doing this kind of motion. So we're going to go 1, 2, 1, and then we're going to go to the next string on the A string and start with the 2 and do a pull off and then a hammer, if that makes sense. So here we're kind of alternating. We start with the hammer and pull hole and a hammer. This one's a little tougher, but it's really good for developing your left hand. Let me try the same thing with middle and ring. I like to repeat the high E string one just to how it sounds, I guess. That one's tough, the 3 to 4. And the same pattern that we were doing before, once you get that one down, that was the one that probably the most difficult for most people, including myself for sure, right? So then we go to middle, to pinky E. Then we can go to index and pinky. So we actually start with the index, and it's kind of a far way to do the hammer-on, right? Really good for developing the pinky. And the last one, it's not so bad. Nice strong finger combination. And lastly, we'll take a look at left hand finger independence, and be sure to watch the end for the exercise to help you with your left hand stretches. So for this part, we're going to start with all 4 fingers of the left hand on the G string or the 3rd string. So the index on the 1st fret, the middle on the 2nd fret, the ring finger on the 3rd fret, and the pinky on the 4th fret. We're going to keep 3 of these fingers down, and we're going to move 1 finger at a time. So we're going to do 1 finger independence for now. And we're actually going to go really slow on this one. This one's a little bit more difficult. So we're going to go from the A string with the index finger on the 1st fret of the A string, and it's going to move to the B string 1st fret, and then return to the A string, and then to the B string. So don't feel like you have to go fast or like you have to get it perfectly clear right away. For some people, this is kind of difficult. So don't stress out your hand too much. It's getting a little more advanced now. And if you feel like you can do that, if you're feeling really brave, you can try going to the low E string and then the high E string with your 1st finger. So the 1st fret of the low E string and then 1st fret of the high E string. The whole time we're keeping these fingers fixed on the string. Let's try the same thing now. We're going to keep 1, 3, and 4 fixed, and your middle finger will go back and forth. From the A string on the 2nd fret to the B string. From the A to the B. Now we'll go to the low E string to the high E string. You should really feel that in this part of your hand. Don't overdo it. Let's keep going for now to the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the A string to the B, 3rd to the A, 3rd to the B. Make sure the pinky, the middle, and the index aren't moving at all. They're staying fixed on that 3rd string. And if you feel up to it, try the low E string, high E string, low E string, high E string, and last but not least, everyone's favorite, pinky on the A string to the B, A string to the B, low E string to the high E string. Okay, that's really good for your left hand. Let's do one more. This is a little more difficult, so once again, take your time if you need to work up to it. Don't overstrain to try to get this. We're going to fix the pinky and the 3rd finger on the 4th fret and the 3rd fret respectively of the 3rd string there. Then the index finger is going to be on the A string on the 1st fret. The middle finger will be on the B string 2nd fret. I'll play those together. So play the thumb with your right hand, you can play the A string and the B string at the same time. And then we're going to reverse them. And what I mean by that is the pointer finger is going to come down to the B string, and the middle finger is going to go up to the A string. So they're alternating like that. Now, if you feel really brave, you can go have your middle finger go to the high E string and your pointer finger go to the low E string, and then reverse those. That's more difficult. If you feel like you can't even quite reach that, that's totally fine. Don't overstrain. That's kind of something very slowly over time you can work up to. We'll try the same thing now. Keep the index and the pinky fixed on the 1st fret and the 4th fret. Then I'll have the 2 middle fingers, the middle finger on the A string, 2nd fret, and this guy, the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. And then reverse those. And then if you're feeling brave, the E strings. That's quite a stretch, right? Last but not least, this is the last one we'll do. This one's by far the most difficult. We'll fix the index in the middle on the 1st and 2nd fret of the G string. And have the third finger on the 3rd fret of the A string, and your 4th finger, the pinky, on the 4th fret of the B string. Switch those. Now we're going to try to get to the E strings. That's the one that people have trouble actually reaching the E strings. If that's you, that's totally fine. Make sure that you're doing all of these other left hand exercises first, and that'll develop the flexibility in your left hand. Don't try to overdo it. This helps tremendously though when we're playing classical guitar pieces, because there's a lot of times where we grab a bass note, over here and have to do a higher note like that. So this really helps developing that strength and flexibility so you can reach those notes. Okay, one last thing. This is kind of intense for left hand stretches. What we can do is we can start maybe here on the 5th fret, and what we do is the index finger on the 5th fret of the high E string, and we'll stay on the high E string for the entire time for this stretching exercise. So make sure you don't overdo this. I don't want anyone to injure their fingers by trying to stretch too much, but you can go kind of nice and slow. We go index, middle, 3rd, pinky. So basically we're just staying in position on the 5th fret, 6, 7, 8, come back to 7, come back to 6. Now we go to index. Now we're going to keep the index fixed. And we're going to watch this. We're going to play middle, and then middle is going to go to the 7th fret. Oh my gosh. And then back to the 6th. And then index, middle, ring. Now ring is going to go to the 8th fret, so we're going to push up a fret for every finger, if that makes sense. The entire time we're going to keep the index fixed on the 5th fret. Now this is my favorite, not really, but the pinky, you go to the 8th fret and go to the 9th fret. I'll do it once without talking, a little bit quicker, just so you can hear it. If you're feeling very brave, what you can do is you can move it down a fret and repeat. Because that becomes more difficult as the frets get wider and wider. So this is a really good one for developing that stretch. You'll burn some calories as you practice this one. Just make sure, once again, that you don't strain your fingers and don't try to do it too fast, too quickly. Now that you know these exercises, you can start to incorporate them into your daily practice routine. You don't need to play every single exercise, but doing 1 or 2 will really help your technique and really help the strength and flexibility of your fingers. So let me know in the comments below which are your favorite techniques to practice. Be sure to subscribe because I'll be making more classical guitar lesson videos. Thanks for watching.